It's great to see Coach Mazzulla just like reaching the height of his coaching profession, winning the NBA Finals, the youngest coach ever to win the NBA Finals. Welcome back to episode 107 of the What's the Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pete Dill. We got a great show for you today. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Spending a little bit of that busy day with me. I know you're too busy. Are you too busy? You're probably too busy. Everyone's a little bit too busy these days. Everyone's just like, how you doing? Busy. Thank you for spending some of that busy day with me. We're going to start off today's show with a little look back Father's Day. Father's Day was this past Sunday. And as your resident dad of this podcast, we celebrated it. Now, I thought it was really funny, though. Father's Day is one of the ultimate holidays or, shout out holidays that doesn't involve going out to eat, doesn't involve going to a restaurant. Nowhere in Father's Day lore or Father's Day tradition do you hear stories of like, and then we got a great reservation at a brunch place and it was a great, cute restaurant and we all just stood there and we all just sat there. We ate and it was, great vibes. No. Now, why? Not because dads don't like to go out to eat. Not because dads don't want to see a new restaurant. Because dads don't like going to crowded restaurants. And if everybody else is going to a restaurant on the same day at the same time, dads are allergic to that. That is kryptonite to dads. Dads are not trying to spend a day dedicated to them going out to a crowded place with a lot of music. Dads, if it's up to them, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just eat here. I'll do the cooking. I'll cook it. I'm not going to go wait in a line for 45 minutes to get into a restaurant that the portions are too small and it's too noisy in there. That's not a great way to celebrate Father's Day because dads don't like crowded restaurants. It's kryptonite. So I always think it's so funny, like, Mother's Day, big time brunch restaurant. That's good quality time with mom. But dads were like, let's keep this celebration in-house. You know what? Hand me the grill tools. I'll take care of this. Because dads do not like loud places, crowded places. And when it's supposed to be for them, no, not happening. So I thought that was pretty funny. Like, you never really hear about going out for Father's Day. I'm sure obviously some people do, but it's usually revolved around like grilling, hanging out, or the dad is somewhere else away from the family. Yeah, golfing, Oh, dad went out to golf. Dads. Hope it was good. Ours was great. We just chilled, which was awesome. Got to relax on a Sunday, watched the US Open. I'm at that stage where I kind of describe sports to like my kids. My son, he doesn't know, but he's starting to understand the concept of when like a ball goes through a hoop or goes into a goal or drops into the cup, that's a good thing. So now we're watching golf and, they're putting and it's really quiet. And, he's used to watching basketball and football and the golf goes in, and the golf ball goes in the cup and it's really quiet. And it's just like, yeah! Like, dude, that's the energy. Yes, bring that energy to the golf course. Everything that happens on the screen, he's just like, yeah! So we had a good time watching it. And obviously, Rory, it was a sad day for Rory. But, if you know, I don't even really need to get into it. But Rory had a tough time, had to lead and gave it away. But Bryson DeChambeau won, so shout out to Bryson. And that was great. It was great just to spend quality time with the family, watch golf, talk about golf, cheer for golf. And that's even something as a dad that I've learned to really love. Like, I've really, really learned to love the, like, passing on of life or passing on of my hobbies or passing on of interests onto my kids. And, got, little guy, just still a little guy. But, man, I can even feel some of that dad energy come up of like, I can feel the dad energy coming up of kind of like, the right way to shoot a jump shot and the wrong way. Or, like, oh, did you see that chest pass? That was crisp. That was a thumbs down chest pass there, buddy. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was going to have this energy when I was talking about sports, teaching about sports. But I'm like, I'm the only one teaching this kid about basketball. I'm the only one teaching this kid about golf. I gotta give him the fundamentals. It's I feel like being a dad is about passing on the fundamentals. You gotta teach these kids about the fundamentals of life, living, being a man, sports. So, I found a great interest in kind of like passing that on. And I didn't really think about it. I didn't really think about it too much growing up about like, oh, I'm going to teach my kids the fundamentals about my interests and sports and things and life. And, I thought about, the shaping and forming of these little humans, which can be daunting at times. But then it's also so fun to like be watching the NBA finals and to be like, now that's Luka Doncic. He shoots step back threes. Now watch this. Now that's a step back three. That means when you dribble in and then you step back and shoot it, that's a step back three. A very challenging shot to shoot. But we'll get there one day. And we're just like, man, this is fun. I like downloading my information onto this kid. No, I'm just kidding. But so that was a lot of fun. So watching that, talking about golf with the boy. Yeah! Cheering. A lot of fun. So also, speaking about dads, speaking about going out to restaurants, I saw this article online. And it's about a restaurant in Indiana, a vegan restaurant in Indianapolis that banned kids under 5. Now, that made a lot of headlines. And there was all these reasons. And they said families are coming in and changing diapers on tables. And they were doing whatever. So like, we can't have this. We got to ban them. But then they got a lot of pushback online for that banning. So they had to close for a couple days. And they said, okay, well, no, why we have to close? We're going to get so much hate. No, I'm not, You want to go to a vegan restaurant, you want to bring kids under 5 and deprive them of cheeseburgers, go ahead, be my guest. But what I thought this reminded me of was so funny. I was like, nothing gets a dad, like an older dad, more surprised than like running down a vegan menu. A dad's mind cannot wrap around a vegan restaurant's menu. It's like, oh, these are jalapeno poppers, and so they have cheese in them wrapped in bacon. You're like, oh, okay, but the cheese is actually tofu, and the bacon is not real pork. It's actually a vegan pork. That's like, what? That's like, so that's not real bacon, and that's not cheese. Yeah, no, okay. What else is on here? Well, this is actually filet mignon, but it's actually made with impossible meat. It's not from a cow, but it's actually impossible meat where it tastes like beef, but it's not really beef. That's like, what? This is so it's not real. It's not a steak. This is fake steak. It's like, yeah, this is a vegan restaurant. Nothing. A dad's mind cannot wrap around a vegan restaurant menu. And so I was thinking about like it's like a family going out for Father's Day. Fine, we'll go out to the restaurant. Well, we won't cook here. And they go to a vegan restaurant, and some dad just being like, so there's no meat on here. There's nothing. There's none of this real cheese. It doesn't matter even if they like the food. It's the principle of it. The principle that it's not meat. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was a pretty funny thing to see. Also, want to shout out one of our featuring stories, Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics. They won the NBA Finals. So we talked about Joe Mazzulla, Coach Joe, last week or 2 weeks ago, and kind of his faith and the way that he talks about his faith as a coach. But they won the NBA Finals. So the youngest coach in NBA history, Joe Mazzulla, won the NBA Finals. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Horford, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, all the boys, they did it. Quite a crazy season. And yeah, it was great to watch. They really just kind of dominated the whole playoffs and even the finals. They really dominated. They were really great to watch. And it was cool to see Joe Mazzulla win. Cool to see him in interviews and, in classic Joe Mazzulla form. He's wearing a shirt. He's getting interviewed with all the confetti's falling. He's wearing a shirt that says, "But first, let me thank God." I was like, that's Joe. That's Coach Mazzulla. So, yeah, really incredible to see them win. I think also, like we talked about last week, it's great to see Coach Mazzulla just like reaching the height of his coaching profession, winning the NBA Finals, the youngest coach ever to win the NBA Finals. I mean, that says something. He's 35 years old, a year older than me. 35 years old, the head winning coach of the NBA Finals. So don't sell yourself short on where you think God is taking you. Don't sell yourself short on the heights of where you can go. Joe Mazzulla, super faithful guy, the youngest winning coach in NBA history to win the championship. I mean, your faith is not stopping you from doing great things in this world. In fact, it's the opposite. So don't sit there and think that, well, God doesn't want me to be successful in my profession. God doesn't want me to be successful in my industry. No, your priorities always have to be God first, but under that, you can be as successful as you want. When it doesn't jeopardize your faith, you can be as successful as you want in your industry. So Joe Mazzulla is a great example of being faithful and just reaching the heights of his profession. So shout out to Coach Joe. Shout out to all the boys there in green. Guys are set up for quite a run for the next few years. So we'll see. I know some people didn't think they could all put it together, but man, they dominated. And Jason Tatum did it. Jaylen Brown did it. They really did it. So really cool to see. And I want to kind of circle back to that because we talked about Joe Mazzulla last week. Moving on, I saw another cool story, and it was about another topic that we actually talked about a couple weeks ago when we talked about the Harrison Buckner speech. Do you guys hear that? Ice Cream Man? I don't know if you can hear this, but there's the Ice Cream Man right there. So we're going to plow through, just try to talk through this ice cream. It's always the same kind of song. It's always like some very, very, like, I don't know, Small World After All. I feel like that's a universal song. All right, so the Ice Cream Man is gone. He made his way onto his next stop. I saw this article the other day, and I was talking about, it was on Catholic Reddit, and it was a person asked a question about defending themselves at work and feeling persecuted at work. People were challenging her faith, and, this person said, they asked me about this, they asked me about that, and I feel like I have to have this answer. Then they say that I'm wrong. Then they say, what about other parts of my faith that I have to talk about? And they said they dread going to work because they feel like people are going to start like questioning them about their faith, and then they're not going to have the right answers. And they feel this fear that they're letting down the church because they don't know how to answer these questions right. So they're asking for advice of how to answer different, apologetics questions. And, I thought it was a really, really great point. I think that a lot of times, when we think about faith in the workplace, at school, college campuses, in social clubs, it comes up. But how do we talk about it? How should we talk about it? And I think it's not easy. It's not easy, right? But I think first and foremost, if you're uncomfortable talk about your faith, like if you feel like you don't have the right answers, you don't have the right, words to say at the moment, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. This harkens back to when we were talking about Harrison Buckner in the podcast. I was like, you don't need to say anything about it. You literally don't need to. Not saying something doesn't mean you're denying your faith. If you're in the workplace, if you're on a college campus, and someone asks you a hard-hitting question, you don't have the right words, you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the right mental headspace, and you feel like you're being trapped, you don't have to say anything. You literally can turn around and walk away. That might be incredibly strange to feel like you can't do that, but you can. You can just walk away in front of someone's face. You literally can say, oh, I can't talk it. I gotta go, right? I gotta go. Sorry, great question. I gotta go. I have these 14 things I need to do. So many things. I gotta go. And just walk the opposite way. You can do that. You're allowed to not say anything. Feel empowered to not say anything. And I think this also goes for any other kind of controversial topic or something, or anything really. If you don't have the answers, if you don't have the headspace, if you don't have the right words to say, you don't have to say anything. This is a hard lesson I've learned in my life, but a good one. Another thing that you can do when you feel uncomfortable or you feel like you don't have the right words to say, talk about your faith, is to say, hey, you know what? I'd love to talk to you about this. Let's talk about it after work. I'd love to grab a beer with you and talk to you about this. Switch up the locations. It doesn't have to be at work. You could have the right words to say, actually, and say, you know what? Let's talk about the other work. Let's switch locations. And that reminds me of that funny moment in The Office. Do you remember that episode where Daryl is asking for a raise and negotiating his salary with Michael? Michael has all these tactics. And one of them is like, hey, to, assume power in the conversation, switch locations at the last minute. Totally backfires on him where he's like, hey, we should go to the conference room. And Daryl's like, okay. And he goes like, hold on, no, let's stay here. And he's like, all right. And he goes, okay, then let's go to the conference room. It just doesn't work. But, I always think about that, switching. You could just switch locations. You don't have to answer something right then and there. And in fact, that actually, by asking to, hey, let's talk about this, but at a different place and different time, it actually shows an investment into the person too. Hey, I'd like to take time out of my personal day and my time to talk to you about this. Let's grab a beer after work. Let's have a more intimate setting, not just the lunchroom at work. So ask to meet up after work. And then, at the same time, we also know that our actions speak louder than our words. I had this, I would say, beautiful image, but I had this beautiful image brought to me the past couple weeks. And it's this idea that if I couldn't speak, I became mute. In that time that it took for me to learn sign language. So I become mute. I don't know sign language. So now I can't really communicate. I can only write stuff down. I can't communicate. I don't know sign language yet. In that time, would people still know I was a Catholic? Would people still judge my actions as Catholic? Would people still see me as loving God by my actions? If I couldn't speak for the 6 months it took for me to learn sign language, would people still know that I was a Christian? And for me, it was powerful because I'm more prone to speaking. I'm prone to jumping in. I'm prone to talking. Me, I talk. I'll talk about it. I like to be about it, but I like to talk about it. I mean, this podcast, 107 episodes, I have a podcast. But also in my life, my regular life, I'm not afraid to have conversations. I love to have conversations. I love relating with people. Tough conversations, good conversations. But if you took all that away, would my actions speak louder than my words? So when it comes to these things on work, college campuses, classrooms, wherever it is, your actions are going a longer way than your words. How you treat that person matters more about your faith and our faith than what we say about it. How we treat the people around us, our coworkers, our teachers, our friends, our classmates, that goes much longer of a way than our words by it. So if we give the perfect answer to a challenging question about our faith, and then we, trash everyone on our team, or we start, just gossiping and slandering people that are, our enemies, well, that's not going to look good. That's not going to be good. Your words mean nothing, really, if your actions aren't backing it up. So, to this person who wrote this question, you're not alone, but also, these are some things that I try to follow, too, in my own life when I think about my faith in the workplace or faith in the college campus or faith out in the world. Because it's important to think about, important to talk about, important to have a game plan about. But again, it's always just take that pressure off. Take the rock off your shoulders. You don't need to feel this pressure because you don't need to say anything. You can always invest time after work or, not in another place, and you can know that your actions are speaking out of your words. So, so that's it for me today. I appreciate all of you. Reach out to me. Tell me any anything you want to hear about, any conversations you like to have, any questions, any thoughts, I'm always open to making this podcast great for you. I don't just want this podcast to be for me. I want this to be for you. So let me know any thoughts, questions, things you'd like to hear, segments, whatever it is. Totally open to what you have to say, and I'd love to hear from you. So that's it for me today. I hope you all have a great day. Hope you all have a great week. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. Bye.